إن الحمد لله وحده الصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وبعد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In our previous session we discussed about one of the deadly diseases of the heart, that is Riya, the show off, that how it spoils and how it deprives a person of the reward which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised upon certain deeds of worship. As we know that one of the human tendency is to be known to others, is to be acknowledged by others. And when a person is pushed by his bad intention, he's pushed by bad intention to be known among the others, then he is doing everything for the sake of other than Allah. However, when a person practices Riya, when a person practices show off, there are certain levels, different degrees for this. So we try to understand what are the different degrees of Riya, what are the different degrees of this show off. Riya has different degrees, some of which are more serious than the others. As Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah has mentioned that Al-Ma'asi tatafawat, the levels of the sinful activities vary from one action to other action. Some are less disastrous, while as others are more disastrous. Some are less harmful, while as others are more harmful. So all the sinful activities are not of same nature, or same level, or same degree. As the good deeds, we know that there are certain deeds which are wajib. Wajib means obligatory. Then there are different forms of ibadah which is optional, which is not wajib, which is not as important as that of the obligations. As in good deeds, there are levels, there are the degrees. So we have the degrees in the sinful activities as well. In the negative things, we also have the degrees. Usually sins are classified into major sins and the minor sins. Al-Kaba'ir was-Saghair, Al-Kabira was-Saghira. Al-Kabira means the major sin. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, إِن تَجْتَنِبُونَ مَا تُنْحَوْنَ عَنْهُ. If you stay away from the major sins which have been prohibited, if you stay away from the major sins which have been prohibited, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I will forgive your minor sins. So major sins, they are deadly sins. And one major sin is enough to take a person to the hellfire. That's why we need to try our top level best to stay away from all forms of major sins. However, there's a difference of opinion among the scholars regarding the number of the major sins. Imam Az-Zahabi rahimahullah has tried his best to gather all the major sins in one book, which is known as Al-Kaba'ir. That has also been rendered into Malay, a beautiful book in which, if I'm not mistaken, he compiles 70 major sins, and rest of them are minor sins. So Al-Ma'asi tatafawat, the nature of the sinful activities varies. Some are more dangerous, some are less dangerous. Some are more deadly, others are less deadly, we can say. As far as the Riya is concerned, it is a major sin. First of all, we need to understand its level, its positioning. Its position is that it is a major sin. However, the degrees of this major sin also varies. There are different levels, there are different degrees of show off. There are different degrees of what you call the Riya. And the first and the most gangrenous degree of, or dangerous degree of Riya is that one who commits it does not originally seek to get a good reward for his deed. As in the case of a person who performs prayer only when people can see him and neglects it when being away from their side. So this is one of the deadly form of riya, that a person is wholly and solely doing this action for the sake of the people. Though he carries the tag that he is doing this for the sake of Allah. How come? Salah is essentially meant for Allah. But this person, he is performing the salah only when people are around. So in presence of people, he performed the ibadah. Though apparently it seems that it is for the Allah, but when examined properly and deeply, so we come to know that it is not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's just for the sake of the people, to make them feel that is very much pious. So this is one of the deadliest form of the riya. That what is the motivation? Motivation is the sight of the people. The people must see him. When the people are not around, he doesn't perform the salah. And there are such people. There are such, we can say, foolish people who do it for the sake of the people, not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are many reasons for this, what motivates them to do this for the sake of the people. Say these people, they want to get the, as I said before, they want to get the acknowledgement in the society. And the easiest way to get the acknowledgement is to be pious, to pretend to be pious, to be a godly man. And deen or religion has been one of the most, we can say, exploitative form of, most dangerous tool of exploitation. So we need to take care of each and everything. Sometimes appearances are deceptive. We may think about a person who is quite pious, but once examined properly, so he turns out to be that he was not doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was just a means to earn the respect of the people. So ikhlas is, as I always says, ikhlas is a life-infusing amal, life-infusing deed, which infuses a life into the amal. On the other hand, riya or show-off is a life-taking element in the deed. So deeds are dead now, with no fruit, with no results, with no rewards. And among the riya, among the degrees of the riya, the deadliest of all forms of riya, all degrees of riya, is that a person's motivation to perform a deed is to show to the people exclusively. And once the people are not around, the people are not present, then he doesn't perform it at all. So he makes the charity when people are around. When there is no one, he doesn't spend a single penny. He performs the salah when people are around. When nobody is around, even he abandons the obligations, the wajib, not to talk about the nafal or the optional prayers. And this type of person, he pretends, he may be telling to people that he observed the fast, but in a sense, he's not observing the fast. So his motive, and there are many people, they go to perform Hajj, they spend a lot of money, then also a good deal of time and their energy. What's the objective? To be called as Haji. Is Al-Hajj, or she is Hajjah, like this. That is a motivation, to earn the title. To earn the title, so they spend the money to get the title. These forms of ibadah don't bring any benefit to a person. They are the deadliest deeds for a person. Because that's going to take them to hellfire, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, we need to understand these degrees of riya. So a person is spending a lot of money in charity, but in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he won't get one single reward. Because his objective is to show to the people how much generous he is. As Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the day of judgment, a rich person will be produced before Allah. Allah will ask him, okay, I bless you with the wealth. So what did you do of it? He will say, Allah, you blessed me with the wealth. Then I was spending, I was helping the needy, I was helping the poor, I was assisting the orphans. So whomever I could lay my hand on, I would help him, I would assist him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, Kadabta. It's a very famous hadith. Your objective was to get the popularity among the people. That how much generous he is. So فَقَدْ قِيل, that has been told about you in dunya, and now here is no reward for you. So the first degree is that the sole objective is to use this ibadah as a tool to please the people. And if there are no people, no ibadah. No people, no form of worship. So motivation is, or we can say, is what in psychology we say, stimulus and response. If there is stimulus, we should respond to it. So his ibadah is based on this stimulus and response theory. That what is the stimulus? Presence of the people. If people are present, he shows a response. If people are not present, he doesn't show any response. So his movements are subject to the presence of the people. His performance of ibadah, his commission of ibadah, or his commission of any form of worship is subject to the presence of the people. I discussed before that if the intention is good, then a person is showing his action to others, but with the good intention. Sometimes it is a motivation that they should also do this, they should also join that initiative. That's good deed. That even doubles the reward. So if a person shows the action with ikhlas to others, if a person makes show off of his action with the ikhlas, so his objective is not to be praised by others. His objective is Allah. But through his action, he wants to motivate others. He wants to be an inspiration for others. So for this, he'll be doubled. His reward will be doubled, rather multiplied, manifold. But that level is not achieved by one and all. Blessed are those people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses with this ikhlas and strong level of intention. But most of the people, the intention is corrupted, and this degree is highly disastrous and dangerous for a person, because this leads a person to commit the shirk. As Prophet said sallallahu ta'ala in one of the hadiths, that I'm afraid of my ummah to commit the shirk, shirk al-khafi. When asked, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained that shirk al-khafi, the hidden riya, the minor shirk is riya. Actually, what happened in shirk, when a person associates partner to Allah, that he's not doing that particular ibadah, form of ibadah for the sake of Allah. He's doing this for the sake of the idol or for the sake of any deity. But here, in place of deity or idol, is a person. There's only difference. That's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a form of shirk, is a hidden shirk. We discuss it inshallah after a short while. Actually, a person should always try his top level best. First of all, to fix the intention, to fix the problems of the intention, if there is any. And this will ensure him to perform the ibadah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the first and most dangerous, which Imam al-Ghazali says rahimahullah. So when people are around, he performs it, and when there's no one to see him, so he will not show his response to the stimulus of the people, so he neglects it. The second degree is that he seeks to get a good reward for his act, but his deed is a little bit absorbed with riya, to such an extent that if he was alone, he would not do it. This degree is near to the first one, and both are detestable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second degree is though closer to the first one, but different from the first one. Closer to the first one, but also different from it. And how is it? He seeks to get a good reward for his act. The first one, there's no intention to get a good reward for it, because the objective is to show it to the people, to get in. His interests are involved. Maybe he's going to have a deal with the people, and he's going to cheat them, he's going to deceive them. But how come they trust him? To get the trust of the people, he performs to be a pious person. He pretends to be a righteous person. So he has nothing to do with the reward. He is always concerned with his own specific interests. Once interests are met, then his job is done. So the first one, he never looks for the reward. There's no intention from the very onset. There's no intention to get the reward. The intention is something else. The intention is to befool the people. The intention is to make them realize, to make them feel that he's pious, he's righteous. But the second one, the second degree is a bit different from the first one, but closer to the first one. The difference is, the line of demarcation between the two is that this person, he seeks to get a good reward for his act, but his deed is a little bit absorbed with riyah. So both the elements are there. One side, he wants to get the reward for the action. He knows that if he performs that particular deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised it to bless him with the particular reward. And he has a desire to get that reward. He has the aspiration to get that reward. But at the same time, there's element of show-off also in that particular form of ibadah. So both the things are there. There is a kind of ikhlas to get the reward, but at the same time there is also show-off to make his action shown to the people, to such an extent that if he was alone, he would not do it. So it is actually the presence of the people that makes him to make show-off. If he is alone, contrary to the first one, if he is alone, he won't do it outrightly. From the very onset, he is not going to commit it, he is not going to perform it. But this one, the second one, if people are not around, and he will find an opportunity to perform an act of ibadah, he will do it with ikhlas. He will do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the intention to get reward, with the intention to be rewarded heavily. But what causes the problem? The presence of the people. So his iman is not as stronger as it should be. His iman is not so stronger that could prevent him to make that form of ibadah only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So his iman is not stronger. He has the divine spark of iman within, but that divine spark of iman is not able to prevent him from making show off. So this is the second one. This degree is near to the first one, and both are detestable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether the first form or the second form, they are detestable, because ultimately the sole objective is not to get the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The intention is diluted in the second one. In the first one, it's quite clear the intention is bad, corrupted and evil. In the second case, it is diluted, and Allah won't accept the diluted things. He is pure and He accepts the pure. Inna Allah tayyib wa yaqbalu. One of the hadith says, Allah is pure and He only accepts the pure things. So the second form is diluted one. So we need to just focus upon our action to find out which element is going to dilute my action. Is there anything which I want to do for the sake of the people? Again, there can be two intentions, good and bad intention. If we want to do it for the sake of the people, not for the sake of the people, to show to the people so that they are motivated, they are inspired to do that particular good deed. But the one who commits that action, who performs that action, his intention is quite good, quite sincere, and quite pure for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then definitely he'll be rewarded heavily for this particular deed. Because here, he risks himself. He has a potential risk of show off. But he tries his best, he makes his efforts not to be the victim of riyah, not to surrender before the show off. Rather, he protects his intention and he's performing the good deed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third degree of riyah is that his intention is equally directed towards both getting a good reward for his act and taking it as a means to be seen by people. In this case, he ruins his good deed as he is not free from sin. So the third case is that his intention is equally directed towards both getting a reward for his act and taking it as a means to be seen by people. In this case, he ruins his good deed as he is not free from sin. The third degree is that being seen by people encourages him to do such religious acts, but he does not neglect worship when being out of people's sight. In this case, he is rewarded for his good intention and punished for his bad intention. So it's a bit different from the second one, though apparently seems to be the same as that of the second, but there is a difference between the two. That this one, actually, the presence of people encourages him to do a lot of actions, but absence of people doesn't mean that he won't perform any deed. So presence of people encourage him, and that encouragement involves an element of riyah. But when people are not around, if he is alone, but still a good form of ibadah he is performing to get the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are the different levels of riyah, or different levels of show off. And one of the deadly form of riyah, that is hidden riyah. One riyah is obvious, explicit. Yet another form of riyah, which is more deadly, which is implicit riyah, or the hidden riyah. Riyah may be either obvious or hidden. The obvious riyah is that which drives man to do some act. There is another degree of riyah that is not as obvious as this one, and it is that which does not drive man to do some act but undervalues the act that is done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, a man may be accustomed to offering voluntary prayers every night, but he feels that it is hard to bear. So whenever he has a pious guest who would spend the night with him, he offers such prayers with him actively. So on his part, he underestimates the importance of the voluntary prayers, optional prayers. He doesn't think that they are important. Though they are not as important as that of the obligations, we do agree with this. But this person despises the optional prayers, bemeans them, undervalues and underestimates them. So this underestimation slowly takes him away from the ibadah. However, there's a motivation for him. If any pious person spends night with him, so what he's doing? He shows that he's performing the ibadah as if he's performing them regularly. So in a sense, he doesn't take care of it. He doesn't value it at all. But in presence of a pious person, he pretends as if he never misses it. So what is the basic objective behind what he wants to get? What is the objective behind his action? Is to get the pleasure of that pious person. Is to show that pious person that he is very much pious, that he observed the piety, that he performed the night prayers. Because performance of night prayers is a kind of, we can say, an easiest way that people recognize his piety. But that's not the only thing. There are many other things to judge the piety of a person. It's not only the salah, it's not only the charity, it's not only one single form of ibadah or different forms of ibadah to judge the piety of a person. Rather, is the overall behavior of a person, overall approach of a person, which determines the level and degree of his piety and righteousness. But most of the time, what we are deceived, we see a person performing a lot of ibadah, we say, oh, he is very much pious. We see a person doing a lot of charity, we say, he is very much righteous. But piety and righteousness doesn't depend upon 1, 2 or 3 actions or amal. The true piety is determined by overall behavior of a person. It's overall approach of a person that determines the level of his level and the degree of his piety. But unfortunately, we don't understand these differences. Then comes another degree of hidden riyah, that is that which neither affects man's doing the act nor makes it easier for him to do it, yet it is inculcated in his heart. So this is another form, another degree of riyah, which neither affects man's doing the act nor makes it easier for him to do it, yet it is inculcated in his heart. And another form of riyah, which is more hidden than the later, is that with which a man does not like to be seen by people when doing some act, But whenever he meets any of them, he likes that he should greet him first and show him respect and veneration. So this is another form that a person is doing ibadah for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but at the same time he wants from people that they should respect him. He wants to be respected by the people. When he is in the session, people must greet him first. Why to greet him first? Because he is pious, because he is righteous. So these are the diseases of the heart, weaknesses of the soul. If they are left unattended, wallahi, they will destroy a person. Apparently he will be performing all the forms of ibadah, but there will be no reward for him. There will be no advancement to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, these actions and deeds will take a person away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he wishes to be greeted first. He wishes to be given the seat first. He wishes to be given a prominent position in the session. If not given, he takes very ill. That's again a riyah, because he is doing this not for the sake of Allah. One of the hadith says, if you join a session, if a place is there, you sit at a place which is vacant. You should not make the people to stand up for you. And there's a sign of arrogance. Though there are certain exceptions to this rule, but usually if a person feels that I deserve that position, I deserve that high seat, it's a form of riyah, it's a form of hidden riyah, which is not apparent, which is not explicit, rather it is implicit. And the hidden riyah is so dangerous that the faithful people are always afraid of it and take heed not to fall into its abyss. They unceasingly do their best to distract people from observing their good deeds, especially those ones which ought to be done in secret. They are even keener on hiding their righteous deeds than people in hiding their evil deeds, subhanallah. By doing so, they only wish that their Lord would be most faithfully done. Their deeds would be most faithfully done for the sake of their Lord, so that He may reward them for faithfulness and sincerity in the hereafter. One of the definition of riyah by Qazi Fudail rahimahullah, though it's not the dominant definition, or we can say the preponderant definition, he said that riyah is not to show the actions to the people, riyah is to hide the actions from the people. Say you are reciting the Quran, somebody knocks at the door, so you just close your, so you don't want to show this to others. He said this is riyah. This is hidden riyah, what Qazi Fudail says. Because there should be nothing which should affect your good deed when you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Though the majority opinion is that riyah is, I'm sitting alone, somebody knocks at the door, then all of us, I just pick up the copy of the Quran and just begin to recite the Quran. When he comes, he watches me that I'm doing this. That is riyah. And there is no reward for this. The pious person of the ummah, they used to conceal and hide their good deeds, so that to ensure it that they are doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They did not want people to see their deeds, because the main motivation behind performing the deeds was to get the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nothing else. That was their main motivation, the strongest motivation with them, to get the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these degrees of riyah, you can see the last one, as far as the faithful people are concerned, they're always afraid. They're always under this fear psychosis that their amal should not be destroyed by any evil deed. And it's mentioned Ibn Abi Mulaika rahimahullah. Ibn Abi Mulaika was one of the tabi'een. He said, I met almost 50 Sahaba in this masjid. And I found all of them afraid of himself to be a munafiq. Means always under this impression that They're not doing huge deeds for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Though they were doing a lot of good deeds, but their approach was that to contain their nafs, to stop their nafs, to develop any sort of arrogance, any sort of conceit, self-conceit, any sort of haughtiness. So they were always fearful of such things. And Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he has mentioned a chapter in Sahih al-Bukhari, Bab, Khawful Mu'mini an Yahbat Amaluh. That believer is always afraid of a thing that his amal should not be destroyed by anything. So they try their best to prevent their amal. They try their best to protect their amal against any evil intention, be it riyah or something else. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with the ikhlas, to take away all forms of riyah, all forms of ostentation, all forms of show off from us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our amal with His acceptance. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fix all the deficiencies, all the flaws of our deeds, so that these deeds become a source of guidance for us in dunya and a source of emancipation for us in the akhirah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahu bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.